One of the greatest gifts an entrepreneur can get is experience. The experience of working under great leaders and for great companies is one way to learn what you can take and apply to your own business once you have the opportunity to start your own company. Well, our guest today had the luxury of getting his experience from Microsoft in Satya Nadella. And he's going to share those lessons, as well as the traits that great leaders possess, with you today. So stick around. Part 1 of this can't-miss interview is coming up next.
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy.
Today's guest is Aaron Bird, CEO and Night Janitor at Bizible, a venture-backed startup that makes marketing measurement and reporting software for business-to-business companies. Previously, Aaron worked at Microsoft under Satya Nadella and applied many of those lessons to his own business. If you want to raise your game when it comes to company culture, leadership strategies, or just want some marketing techniques to increase your company's visibility, then you won't want to miss what Aaron has to say.
Aaron, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm really excited about today's episode. You know, I'm always amazed at the people that end up on the Inc. 5000, but the Inc. 5000 wasn't good enough for you. The Inc. 500 wasn't even as good enough for you. I mean, we're on the Inc. 200. We should form a new list, man. Number 179. Well done. Tell us.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Thanks. It's it's been a long road to get here, right? It's funny how everybody's an overnight success after 10 years of doing something, but yeah, no, it's great. It's great to get the recognition. The folks at Inc. have been great, and it's nice to be able to. I love what they do to highlight private companies that are doing well and growing fast, and it's been really fun to see the results there.
I really appreciate you saying that. It's taken a while to get there because so often entrepreneurs are so. We don't have any patience. It's like, we start something today. We want the results even before we start, right? Most of us, yeah. Right? But then we start and it's like, oh, well, damn, where's the results? Where's the results? And it's funny because I talk about the ultimate success map where one of the stages in a successful journey is the thing that's called time, of course, which everybody hates. Like you got to start doing the hard work and then it takes some time before the plants grow. You can harvest and reap the rewards. So I appreciate you saying that. Start us out. I know that you used to work at Microsoft, and I've never had anybody on, at least that in their bio said they worked at Microsoft. That's got to be so. Obviously, there's a ton of them, right? I'm not. It's not like you're really guy who went to the moon. But tell us a little bit of what it's like, because I think everybody that I know that doesn't live on the West Coast that's in tech is like, man, I really like to work for Google or Apple or Microsoft. It's like, what was it like?
Yeah, look, I like Microsoft a lot. I only left because I was getting, kind of pulled to the entrepreneurial journey, not because I was intentionally leaving Microsoft. But it's a great company. When I joined Microsoft, Satya, who's now the CEO, was actually my VP, just coincidentally. So I saw him speak in front of 20 people in small conference rooms and stuff. And of course now he's running the whole company. I think he's done an amazing job. The culture change over there, embracing open source. I mean, it's a lot of the stuff that he's preaching was heretic kind of back in the bomber days. So it's anyway, he's done a great job. I love Microsoft. It was a great place to be. I learned a lot. In fact, the early insights for Bizible came from our experience at Microsoft and working on their ad platform in MSN and Bing. And so I learned a lot from a lot of great people and had a great experience, and it definitely helped me.
Why do you think that Bing did not win the war?
um, I, they were too late to the game. I think fundamentally, that's it's hard. You can't just kind of mimic somebody, like you can't chase somebody like that, right? I mean, I think if you're going to come late to the game, you've got to have a huge differentiator, where maybe it's mobile or it's something like that. But I think in the end they were trying to out Google after Google had already done it, and that's just I mean, that even a company as big as Microsoft, you can't do that.
Yeah, interesting. What do you see the changes now that he's in charge? Besides the open source, what do you think their future is going to look like? I mean, because let's face it, you got Apple, you got Google, and you got Microsoft. Is there anybody else we can throw in there? Amazon, of course, which will buy everybody at some point. I swear, he'll be the first trillionaire. That's my bet.
Yeah, that seems very likely.
Yeah.
They're on a tear.
Yeah, or one of the creators of a cryptocurrency.
Right.
That's a recent call.
Sell now, right?
do something now. At least it's exciting. I mean, at least there's volatility. It's not like I don't know, a gas company. It's like, let me see, I got 5 cents as a dividend this year. I'll get 5 cents next year. At least there's some excitement. So what does Microsoft, in your opinion, need to continue to do or do differently in order to get close to winning this game?
I think it depends on which game too. So one unique thing about Microsoft is they're in quite a few markets. I think if you look at the cloud, I think they're doing really well, both at the application level in the cloud. So like Office 365, they're I don't have all the stats in front of me, but I'd say they probably have one of the top 5 largest application SaaS businesses out there, just through Office 365. And then if you go down to the infrastructure layer at Azure, they're definitely a number 2 to AWS, but growing fast, and they've got the enterprise's ear that they've always had. So I think Scott Guthrie and other folks over there at Azure are really killing it. So and then there's Xbox, which is a consumer play. Obviously, there's their Windows business. So they're in a lot of different places. I think that they've found themselves in a good spot now. I mean, they tried mobile for a while to kind of go after Android and stuff, and I think have given up on that. But I think the real future for Microsoft, I mean, they've always been an enterprise business, right? They've sold to businesses, and they're an enterprise software business, and they're doubling down there, and the cloud is helping them a lot, both at the infrastructure as well as the SaaS layer. And I mean, they've one of the biggest cloud businesses or recurring revenue model businesses on the planet, and very few companies have been able to transition from installed software to recurring, whether it's SaaS or infrastructure as a service, and Microsoft's one of the very few. So I think Oracle is struggling hard with that right now. Google was kind of born native into the cloud. And Amazon obviously got into the infrastructure business with AWS, but I think they're doing really well. I think they'll keep doing what they're doing, and they've core enterprise, and then they've got their gaming business with Xbox, which is kind of a little bit of an outlier, but still obviously doing really well on the gaming side. Yeah,
they certainly get my money. I mean, I run Windows and I run Mac as well, but on my Mac I still run Office 365. It's just they hooked me. And then it's like, okay, now you got to pay for the subscription. I'm like, oh, really? It's like, I'm going to do it, man. It's now just part of my DNA. And they make a great product.
Yeah. And they've embraced Linux. So in Azure, you can run Linux now. I mean, this is something that I remember when I was at Microsoft. Linux was the devil for Ballmer. I mean, it was like this was the thing that might kill Microsoft. I mean, there's many quotes out there about him talking about Linux, and to think that you can buy a VM now, you can stand up a VM in Azure and run Linux on it, and that's something they promote and they encourage, and they've open sourced .NET. .NET runs on Linux. I mean, you can code in .NET in Visual Studio on a Mac, and you can deploy it to Linux. That's just, I mean, this was 10 years ago that there was literally, Ballmer would have said this will never happen.
Yeah, unheard of.
So Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, definitely.
So, the CEO used to be your line manager. And any insightful lessons, any, aha moments or anything you walked away with and said, hey, that's brilliant?
Yeah, I think that one thing, there's very few leaders that I've met that are really smart, very capable, great leaders, but also are constantly both empathetic and trying and wanting to learn. I think I meet a lot of leaders, and I think the higher up you go, you see leaders that feel like they need to understand everything or know everything or make decisions with conviction, and so they spend less time really setting out to learn before they decide, and doing it. And I think Satya does it with a lot of empathy. I was always really impressed by, he would quickly try to understand what's going on and really understand everyone's perspective in everything we did, whether it's working with customers or teams or what have you. So I think that's something that really left a mark on me, and I think that the CEO of Redfin, Glenn, is another person that falls in that same camp that I really like listening to, and I've heard him speak before, and I think being really empathetic and that a thirst for knowledge and understanding and empathy are not at odds with strong conviction and leadership, and I think it's a fine balance, and it's easier as you get further up in a big company to just rule with an iron fist, if you will, or just kind of rule with edict and not necessarily listen. And you can do that, and there's obviously successful leaders that come across that way. But I've tried to model it myself after that, and I think that's something that's rare, but much more effective in the end.
So you went out, you created your own company, Bizible. When it first started, how many people? Was it just you? Was it you and a couple people? Where did it start?
Yeah, so I left Microsoft in January of 2011, and at that point it was just me, but I didn't know what I was going to do yet. And my CTO, Peter, joined a couple months later, and then Andy Turman, our other co-founder, joined a couple months after that. So there's kind of the three of us at the beginning, and and we were all working from home. We were on Skype, just coding and kind of working from our dining room tables at home in the early days.
So it's the three of it. Now you're ventured back at this point. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, we've raised around 19 million.
So bring us through that process. Three guys sitting around, three different dining room tables. At least you guys were wealthy enough to have dining room tables.
Yeah, I guess so. I was in a one-bedroom apartment with my wife now, my girlfriend at the time, and it was interesting. Yeah, just kind of working and having her sitting on the couch and I'm Skyping with my co-founder. It was interesting early days.
That's right. She said, "Look, I'm invested in this. I'm going to see this thing through. If I got to deal with this, I'm going to see this guy make it big." So she was in it for the long haul. So from the three people, right? Take us from there to where you got to the point where you venture backed, raised 19 mil. Fill in the gaps.
Sure. We started in 2011. We didn't launch the product and really the company as you know it today until 2013. So we spent 2 years finding product market fit and actually just iterating through ideas. When I left Microsoft, I had about half a dozen or so kind of insights that throughout my career that I wanted to explore, and we went through those, and then of course iterations of each of them. So we spent a long time in that. The lean startup methodology of finding product market fit. I spent about 2 years there until Bizible as you know it today, and we launched that product in 2013. And so for those first 2 years, I think we went from, in 2011 there's three of us, and then in 2012 we had maybe 7-8 people, and so we had a few more developers and that we'd hired, and I raised a little bit of money in 2011 from friends and family, friends, family, and fools, as they call them, that just took a flyer on a guy with a few ideas and a lot of naivete.
And the first 2 years, you guys self-funded it?
So I raised $300,000 in 2011, and that helped to fund it for those first 2 years.
Okay, got it.
Yep, yeah. So some self-funding, some kind of friends and family, and then in 2012, at the end of 2012, we closed 1.7 million from Madrona, which is the top kind of Pacific Northwest VC here in Seattle, and then we were able to start scaling, and then in 2014 we closed 8 million, which was the next big round.
Now, so many people out there listening want to raise capital, venture capital, angel capital. What advice do you give them? What mistakes did you do? What did you do correctly? What would you do a little bit differently? Bring us through it.
Yeah, happy to. I think the first thing that I learned, and I think is counterintuitive, and I see most entrepreneurs going the opposite direction. And actually, I'll say this with a caveat first. So, only raise venture capital if you've got a venture scale business. If you really believe that the idea you're working on, the company you're working on, is something that can be really big and really big in a market value perspective, right? So that someone would value this company at many hundreds of millions or maybe in the billions. You have to believe that the company is going to get that big to take on that kind of investment. Now, friends and family investment or even angel investment's different. I think you can raise a few $100,000 from friends and family or angels and build a company that's worth $10 million and still have successful outcomes for everybody. But if you're going to go and raise millions of dollars from venture capitalists, make sure that you're going to be able to get them the kind of returns that they're looking for, and not just for them to be happy, but they're going to put hooks into your business such that you won't be happy if you don't have those outcomes either. So I'll say that with the preface. Now, I think most people that are looking at venture capital, I think already check that box, but I think it's a good thing to level set and make sure that you're going after the right types of investors for the outcomes that you want. So assuming that you do have a venture scale business and that it makes sense to raise millions or tens of millions of dollars to build a big business, I think the first mistake I see entrepreneurs making, and I did this early on too, because it's kind of your natural instinct, is to really be focused off of dilution, right? And raising as little as you can, or really trying to push the limit on the valuation, because obviously when you go to raise money, they give you money and they're taking a share of your business in return, and a lot of entrepreneurs try to minimize the percentage that they have to give up, which usually means minimizing the amount they raise. And so I think my first learning and the first thing I tell entrepreneurs when they go out to raise venture capital is really, especially in the early days when there's just a lot of unknowns, raise as much money as you can. If you think about where do companies fail? Most companies fail because they run out of money. That's 99%, right? So
yeah. What's the other 1%? They just
right.
decide.
Yeah, it's probably 100%,
yeah,
right? I mean,
maybe they die or something, right? I mean, there could be a tragedy with the founders or
Sure.
Okay. Litigation maybe, but yeah, it's basically you run out of money.
You run out of money. I mean, that's the only way. If you're committed and you've got a big market, the only way you can not succeed is by running out of money. So you think about that, like, well, let's just not do that, right? I mean, if success looks like not running out of money, then why don't we just not run out of money? I think the flip side is, well, you raised a bunch of money, so you had to give out a lot of the company. And I think people are hard pressed to find an entrepreneur out there that that took their company public, and then in hindsight they're like, I wish my 6% was 8%, right? I feel like I failed. I took it public, but I didn't make enough money. I've never heard anyone say that. I have heard a lot of people say I ran out of money and so we had to stop. So optimize for, that the thing that matters, which is not running out of money, not trying to create, having the biggest share of a pie that's worthless.
I love what you said also, is that you took the first 2 years to figure out what your market fit was. And I see so often people run into the market and go, here's my baby. I love it. Isn't it cute? Please buy it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I think the lean startup process is amazing. I think if for your listeners that haven't read it, that don't aren't familiar with it, I strongly encourage them in the early stages. I mean, it's creating a company and then running a company are two different things. So I think I got a MBA from Pepperdine, and MBAs are great at, or can be great at, running companies. They don't teach you anything in business school about how to create a company, and the lean startup process is is a great one to create companies. And you're exactly right. I think the other mistake entrepreneurs make is entrepreneurs by definition they want to solve problems, right? And so they see a problem and they jump to, let's solve it. And you have to actually spend a lot of time up front deciding, is this the right problem to solve? Is it a real problem? If we solve this problem, could we sell it for more than it takes to solve it, right? All these kind of things that if you just jump to the solution, you may end up finding that you build a mousetrap that you actually can't sell or monetize, or there's only 3 people on the planet that'll buy it and things like that. So I think spending a lot of time really proving out, is this the right problem, and not just being not taking that entrepreneur optimism and applying it to making, assuming that you've got the right problem in front of you.
Yeah, this is an area that I'm so passionate about, and what I call it is the difference between problems and symptoms. And so often as entrepreneurs, we run around trying to figure out how to fix the symptoms. We think we've labeled them problems, but they're really not problems. They're just a symptom of the underlying problem. We spend all our time focused on that symptom, never addressing the underlying problem. It's like, having a headache. Is it our bodies are lacking aspirin? No, there's something going on, right? The aspirin is taking care of a symptom, which is the headache. There's an underlying issue. And people spend so much time just attacking the wrong thing, and it's fascinating. Matter of fact, we spend hours with clients on this very topic. And once you think you've got to the problem, it's like, is there something deeper? Is there something deeper? It's almost like on peeling back an onion. So I love that what you say.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I love the analogy of if Henry Ford would have asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right?
Yes.
And what's the real problem here? It's not that the horse isn't going fast enough.
Yeah. And I was thinking about this with cars the other day. I've got I'm a car guy, so I've got my next car on the list, and my next car on the list is not a very practical car. If you're not a car guy. So it's like, why am I buying this car? To get myself from point A to point B? Hell no. Is it, to get from point A to point B really damn fast? Yes. To spend a lot in gas? Yes. To spend a lot of money to look cool? Yes. I could take an Uber, or I could walk, or I could take a Ford Fiesta. They even make those anymore, We don't buy necessarily just because of what it does, but it's, how it makes us feel. Thank you so much for listening today. I really do appreciate your time, and I hope you found today's show valuable. If you would like to receive these shows automatically to your phone or to your computer, simply go to iTunes and subscribe. After listening to several of the shows, if you're so inclined, please leave us a 5-star rating, as this helps us reach additional people and spread the message. If you're truly committed to taking your life to the next level and doing whatever it takes to become a peak performer, but something's holding you back, something is blocking your way, and you just can't seem to figure out what it is, send me an email to info@thorconklin.com, and I'd be more than happy to get on the phone with you. We'll schedule a 15-minute discovery call. No obligation, no cost. I absolutely love to hear from the listeners, and if there's something I can do to help, I'd be more than happy to do that. Also, if you found something of great interest in today's show and you want to share that with your friends and family, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode, hit the share button, and share it on your page. You can follow me at Twitter @ThorConklin. The website is thorconklin.com. We're constantly adding new free resources. discussing additional tricks, tips, tools, and strategies on how to be a peak performer. Remember, I try to keep these episodes short so you can listen to them during dot time, doing other things, commuting, driving, walking, working out. Decide to be a peak performer in all that you do. And until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.
Be on the lookout for part 2 of our conversation with Aaron, where he tells us why business school doesn't prepare you for being an entrepreneur, in addition to asks, are you solving the right problem? I'll see you guys on another edition of Peak Performers Podcast.